MySQL RDBMS architecture is what we're going to discuss today. These are the topics of discussion for today related to MySQL 5.7 RDBMS, introduction to MySQL RDBMS. Then we're going to talk about the architectural components of MySQL RDBMS, MySQL application layer, MySQL logical layer. Then we're going to see how SQL execution happen inside MySQL RDBMS. Also, we're going to see the MySQL in-memory or the buffer layer, and then MySQL physical or the on-disk layer. Now, first of all, what is MySQL RDBMS? The MySQL architecture is basically, or RDBMS architecture is basically a client-server system. MySQL database server is the server, and the applications which are connecting to this particular database server are known as clients. Now, unlike the other databases, MySQL is a very flexible and offers different kinds of storage engines as a plugin for different kinds of needs. Now, because of this, MySQL architecture and behavior will also change as per the use of the storage engines. For example, transactional purpose, we use InnoDB engine, and for non-transactional purpose, we use MyISAM engines. Now, this data storage and SQL execution methods will be different within the server. It will use engine specific components like memories and buffers. Depending upon the type of the storage engine will get used for the SQL operation. Now let's take a look at the history of MySQL. MySQL was created by a Swedish company, MySQL AB, which was founded by David Exmark, Alan Larson, and Michael Monty. The first version of MySQL appeared on 23rd of May 1995. Now, it was initially created for the personal usage from MSQL based on the low-level language ISAM, which the creators considered too slow and inflexible. They created a new SQL interface while keeping the same API as MSQL. Now, by keeping the API consistent with the MSQL system, many developers were able to use the MySQL instead of the licensed proprietary one, MSQL antecedent. Now let's have a look at the MySQL release history. So version 5.1, the commercial version 5.1 came into existence in November 2008. Okay, and the end of the support was 2013. Now this version contains the release of MySQL 5.0 to MySQL 5.1 versions. 5.5 version came into existence 2010 December, and the end of the support was December 2018. So this contains the release of MySQL 5.5, to MySQL 5.5.62. Then 5.6 came into existence or released was 2013 Feb, and Feb 2021 was the end of support. MySQL 5.7 came into existence in 2015, and October 2023 is going to be the end of support. And the latest version is MySQL 8, which came into released in 2018 April, and this has the end of support till April 2026. Now coming to the architecture of MySQL 5.7. See, the MySQL architecture is broken into 3 layers, basically, which can be defined by the application layer, the logical layer, and the physical layer. So the application layer will contain 3 interfaces or utilities, you can call it. So basically, administrative interface and utilities, client interface and utilities, and the query interface. So when I talk about administrative interface and utilities, so the administrators use various administrative interface and utilities like MySQL admin, which performs tasks like shutting down the MySQL server and creating or dropping the databases. Now MySQL dump, it is basically used by the administrators or the DBAs for backing up the database or copying the database to another server. Coming to the client interface and utilities. So for the client's communication with MySQL through various interface and utilities, we have like MySQL APIs are there. So the MySQL API will send the query to the server as a series of tokens. Similarly, you can have Python APIs which connect to the MySQL database. or Java or C based APIs. Coming to the query interface. Now the query users interact with MySQL RDBMS through a query interface that we call it as a MySQL. So MySQL is a utility or a query interface for interaction or sending the queries to the MySQL database. Now coming to the MySQL logical layer. See, the logical layer takes the data from the application layer. So basically we have a client and a server. So the client, basically different utilities are there to connect to the MySQL server. And then when it comes on the server, the MySQL interface, sorry, the MySQL instance where actual data is getting stored and data processing is happening. So MySQL server basically a daemon program hai. So there is a daemon which is running in the MySQL server where the MySQL instance is running. We call it as a MySQL D. So it's nothing but a daemon hai, which runs in the background and manages database related incoming and outgoing requests from clients. Now MySQL D is a multi-threaded process which allows connection to multiple sessions, listens for all the connection and also manages the MySQL instance. Invoking your MySQL D will start the MySQL server on your systems. Terminating the MySQL D will shut down the MySQL D server. Now coming to the components, what are the different components of logical layer? So the different components of the logical layer are connection handling, parser, optimizer, query cache, metadata cache, key cache, and the most important, storage engine. So coming to the connection handling, see when a client connects to the server, so the client gets its own thread for its connection. All the queries from that particular client executed within that particular specified thread. Now the thread is cached by the server, so they don't need to be created and destroyed for each new connection. Coming to the parser basically checks for the SQL syntax and also does the authentication check. Now, when I say SQL syntax, it does it by checking every character in SQL query and generate an SQL ID for each SQL query. And when I talk about authentication check, it is basically the user credential check that will happen by at the parser stage. Coming to the optimizer, optimizer basically creates an efficient query execution plan as per the storage engine. It will rewrite a query. Example, let's say InnoDB has shared buffer. So optimizer will get pre-cache data from it. Now using the table statistics, optimizer will generate an execution plan for a SQL query. Now coming to the metadata cache, it is basically a cache for object metadata information and statistics. Now coming to the query cache basically stores or shares the identical queries from memory. So if an identical query from client found in query cache, then the MySQL server retrieves the result from the query cache rather than parsing and executing that query again. So it's a shared cache for sessions. So a result set generated by one client can be sent in response to the same query issued by another client. Query cache based on select SQL ID. Select data into the view is the best example I can think of. Pre-cache data using the query cache. Coming to the key cache basically what it does is cache the table and indexes. So in MySQL, tables indexes. So whatever the index that is created on the table, so those data will be cache of the indexes will be cached inside the key cache. So in MySQL, keys are called as indexes. Okay. So if index size is small, then it will be cached index structure and the data leaf. Now, if an index is large, then it will only cache index structure. It is mostly used by the MyESAM in storage engine. Now, coming to the storage engine, see MySQL components that manages the physical data, right? File management and location. So storage engine is basically responsible for SQL statement execution and fetching data from data files. So use as a plugin and can load unload from running MySQL server. Now some of the storage engines are first one is InnoDB, which is default from 5.5 onwards. Now some of the characteristic of InnoDB storage engines is that it is fully transactional ACID and offers redo undo for transactions. Data storage in table spaces and multiple data files. Row level locking is available. Logical object structure using InnoDB data and log buffer. You can do it with InnoDB. Now coming to the MyISAM storage engine, it is non-transactional with data storage in files, speed for read and table level locking. These are the things you can do it. So basically InnoDB is used for your OLTP application and MyISAM is used for your data warehousing or OLAP application. Apart from that, there are many other storage engines like memory is there, archive is there, CSV is there. Now memory is basically a non-transactional data stored in the memory other than metadata and structure, and it provides table level locking. When it comes to archive, it is a non-transactional storage engine, store large amounts of compressed and unindexed data. It does allow insert, replace, and select, but not delete or update SQL operations. Table level locking is also available when you are using the archive storage engine. Coming to the CSV, it stores data in a flat file using the comma separated values format. Table structure need be created within the MySQL server. Now coming to the SQL execution inside MySQL RDBMS. See, usually what happens, so first of all, a connection will be established and a thread will be connected. As I told you before, per connection, there can be n number of threads. So the SQL query will be assigned a thread. Now then the parser will do, it will come into the picture parser, it will check for the query syntax and it will generate an SQL ID for the query. Next, it will check whether that particular SQL ID exists in the query cache or not. Basically, it is looking for an identical query from a previous session. Then if the identical query is not found, then the parser will give it to the optimizer. Optimizer will generate the execution plan and then execute the query and give it to the storage engine to fetch the data from the data files. Also, few things to remember that MySQLD, which is a daemon process, is executes as a single OS process with multiple threads executing concurrent activities. Now, MySQL does not have its own thread implementation. It always relies on the thread implementation of the underlying OS. So basically, when a user connects to the database, a user thread is created inside MySQLD daemon process, and this user thread executes the user queries, sending the results back to the user until the user disconnects. So when more and more users connects to the database, more and more user threads execute in parallel. As long as all user threads execute as if they are alone, we can say that the system MySQL scale wills. But at some point we reach a limit and adding more user threads will not be useful or efficient. So just to summarize, MySQL Server is a single process application. It is a multi-threaded. It acts as a TCP/IP server accepting the connections. Each connection gets a dedicated thread. Now these threads are sometimes called as process and sometimes they are referred to as connections. Now coming to the MySQL in memory or the buffer layer. So these are the components of the in memory or the buffer layer. I'm talking with respect to the MySQL 5.7. So the InnoDB storage engine is mainly composed of different buffer pools, log buffer, change buffer, adaptive hash index, and log buffer. As you can see, the buffer pool, inside the buffer pool only, we have the change buffer and the adaptive hash index, whereas log buffer is a separate entity. Now coming to the InnoDB buffer pool. See, on dedicated servers, so up to 70 to 80% of your physical RAM or memory is often assigned to the buffer pool. So when a data or an index page is read from the IB data files, IB data files is nothing but the system data file. It is also cached into the InnoDB buffer pool. So when any cache data changes, it is updated in the buffer pool and the page that contain is flagged as dirty. So we call it as a dirty page. The page will eventually be written to the IB data files, which is nothing but the system table space. But for performance reason, MySQL will delay it for as long as possible. Now, as a rule of thumb, we should make the buffer pool as large as possible while still leaving enough memory for the MySQL and other process running into your system. So the InnoDB buffer pool size, you can see on the right hand side, there is a parameter known as InnoDB buffer pool size, is one of the most important parameters for performance tuning. So whenever you are starting, some memory will be allocated to that. Generally 70 to 80% is recommended value of your physical RAM. Now, how can we configure the buffer pool flushing? See, from MySQL 5.5, the default value, you can see one parameter InnoDB max dirty pages percentage. Now, InnoDB, what it does, it aggressively flushes the buffer pool pages if the percentage of dirty pages in the buffer pool reaches the InnoDB max dirty pages percentage threshold, which is defined by this particular parameter. So in MySQL 5.5, the default value is 75, means 75% of the dirty pages will be kept in the buffer pool and the rest 25% will be flushed to the disk. Now, if you are setting the InnoDB max dirty pages percentage to 0, what it does, it keeps the InnoDB data pages maximally flushed to the disk up to 99% from the InnoDB buffer pool. Now, without tweaking anything else, this also provides for a faster shutdown of your MySQLD in the presence of loads of InnoDB data, since MySQLD flushes the Inno buffer pool on shutdown. Coming to the change buffer. See, one of the challenges in a storage engine design is random IO during a write operation. So in InnoDB, a table will have one cluster index and 0 or more secondary indexes. Now, each of these indexes is a B-tree index. What happens when a record is inserted into a table? The record is first inserted into a cluster index and then into each of the secondary indexes. So the resulting IO operation will be randomly distributed across the disk. Now the IO pattern is similarly random for your update and delete operation. Now to avoid or mitigate this problem, the InnoDB storage engine uses a special data structure called the change buffer. Your change buffer is nothing, it is another B-tree with the ability to hold the record of any secondary index. There is only one change buffer within the InnoDB and it is persistent in the system table space. The size of the change buffer is configured using the InnoDB change buffer max size system variable. So on the right hand side, you can see there is a variable known as InnoDB change buffer max size. Adaptive hash index. Now MySQL engine, sometimes it supplements your InnoDB B-tree based indexes with a fast hash lookup tables, and then it automatically builds them without a prompt from the user. Now this particular feature is enabled by default and it is, you can see the value. There is a parameter known as InnoDB adaptive hash index, which is on by default. Now, if a table fits almost entirely in the main memory, a hash index can speed up the queries by enabling the direct lookup of any element, okay, turning the index value into some sort of a pointer. Now, InnoDB has a mechanism that monitors the index searches. Now, what happens if InnoDB notices that queries could benefit from building a hash index, it does so automatically. And that is the reason adaptive hash index is a part of the buffer pool. Now coming to the log buffer. See the page, whatever the page that has been modified or that has been written, it will also be written to the InnoDB log buffer. Now this log buffer is typically flushed to the disk at certain transaction commit. So these are called as redo logs. Usually there are two redo logs by default, IB underscore log file 0 and IB underscore log file 1. Now what happens if MySQL crashes? So the InnoDB pool cache will be lost given it is an in-memory cache. Now to recover from this lost data, MySQL will read the InnoDB log files and restore all pages that were flagged as dirty. Now this recovery happens automatically at startup after a crash. Now this is something which we call it as a instance recovery or a server crash recovery. So usually what happens upon the restart of the MySQL server, the table space discovery process happens. So whatever the redo present after the last checkpoint is applied to the table space, then the log buffer is flushed to the table space, and whatever the uncommitted changes are there will be rolled back by reading the undo table space from the table space. Now there is a very important parameter for this InnoDB flush log at transaction commit, which I'm going to tell you to you in the next video. Now coming to the MySQL physical or on-disk layer. Now these are the components of on-disk layer. We have two major components, table space or the data files, and the redo logs or the redo data files. Now under the table space, we have the InnoDB data dictionary. Now here I'm talking about the system table space, which is the default table space. So whenever you're creating the MySQL instance, so first you will only get the system table space. So it contains data dictionary, double write buffer, change buffer, undo logs. Now undo logs is a part of system table space till 5.7. From MySQL 8, it is a separate entity. It is a separate table space. But till 5.7, MySQL, it is a part of system table space. Then you have tables and indexes. Now coming to the InnoDB data dictionary. The InnoDB data dictionary is basically comprised of some of the system tables that contains metadata that used to keep track of objects, such as tables metadata, indexes, and the table columns. So the metadata is physically located inside your system table space. Now on the right hand side, you can see there are a couple of system table space you can find out. Coming to the double write buffer. Now see, double write buffer is basically a storage area which is located inside the system table space, where InnoDB writes the pages that are flushed from the InnoDB buffer pool. Now, before the pages are basically written to the proper position in the data file. Now, only after flushing and writing pages to the double write buffer does InnoDB, it writes the pages to the proper position. Now, let's say if there is an operating system is there and storage subsystem is there, or MySQL process crash in the middle of a page write. So InnoDB can later find a good copy of those pages from the double write buffer during cache recovery. Now, InnoDB uses this particular buffer to avoid data corruption that happens in case of any partial page writes. So partial page write can happen in case of, disk get completely full, or maybe due to power outages or crash or a bug. Now this buffer, double write buffer, is basically a reserved area capable of storing 100 pages. Now again, it is located inside this IBData1 system, which is a system table space, and it is more like a backup of the recent rewritten 100 pages. Now InnoDB buffer is enabled by default in most cases. Okay, so this is the value on the right hand side parameter. You can see InnoDB underscore double write. By default, it will be switched on. Coming to the undo logs. As I said before, till 5.7, MySQL undo logs is a part of a system table space, that is IBData1 data file. Now undo log is a collection of undo log records which are associated with a single read write transaction. By default, it's under the system table space till 5.7. An undo log record contains information about how to undo the latest change by a transaction to a cluster index. Now, if another transaction needs to see the same original data as a part of a consistent read operation, the unmodified data is retrieved from the undo log records. On the right hand side, you can see a couple of parameters for undo logs. Undo InnoDB undo log truncate, which is off by default. Okay, so if any truncation you need to do it manually, or you can also switch it on. But I think in MySQL 8.0, it is switched on by default. Then you have InnoDB undo directory and InnoDB undo table space. Now coming to the concept of tables. See, InnoDB tables are created in a file per table space by default since MySQL 5.6. So in the later videos, I will explain you what is file per table space. It is recommended that we should always have a primary key for each table that we create. Now see, whenever a table is created within MySQL, so below data files are created for each table till MySQL 5.7. So let's say I have created a table. Okay, on the right hand side, you can see create table syntax is there. So I have created a table known as T1. So what will happen inside when you look at the data directory, so till 5.7, you will get for that particular T1 table, will get two files. One is .ibdata, another is .frm. So IBData, what it contains the data and indexes of each table. And .frm, it actually contains the table's metadata, like what are the columns are there, what are the data types of those columns will be included inside the FRM. Now from MySQL 8.0, onwards, FRM is discarded and everything is included under the IBD data file. Coming to the readologs concept. See, the readolog is basically a this-based data structure. Okay. That is comes into play only when we are doing any recovery or crash recovery to correct the data that is written by an incomplete transaction. So by default, the readolog is physically presented on the disk by two files, IB_log file 0 and IB_log file 1. So MySQL basically writes to the readolog files in a circular fashion. And there are a couple of parameters associated with readologs, which you can see on the right hand side. InnoDB log file size. And then if you want to see the number of log files, InnoDB log file size in groups. Also, as of MySQL 5.6, we can change the number or the size of the readologs depending upon our requirements. So that's all from the MySQL 5.7 architecture side. Do let me know if you have any question. I would be happy to answer that. Thank you.